All right. Well, that was frustrating. And obviously, I have no way of telling you other than saying there's a new link posted in Classroom that the stream had to switch over. So I apologize for that hiccup. My internet went down, as it's been doing lately, pretty frequently. So I'm going to try and just pick up the pace a little bit here and get into our announcement or our project outline, and that way, at least, if we stumble across this video later, I'll make sure there's a message in Classroom for it with a link in that. It's in there now. All right, it's in the same post as I put in the previous link. It's just above it because I wanted to make sure that there was time to get over everything I need to get over, and there wasn't yesterday. So what that means is we're going to get to a stopping point today, and that's kind of by design to make sure that we can fill in some gaps next class. What that also means, there it is that there are going to be some examples that I want to show you next class, student examples that are going to help put things into perspective a little bit more. And it'll be an opportunity then to ask some questions, have a little bit more in-depth conversation, and work on the assignment together, because the assignment will be posted today with a due date of the end of next class. So without further ado, I'm going to pray that the internet decides to hold up the way it's supposed to, and that I pay a ton of money for, and get right into our presentation. So this video will be accessible later if you guys thought that, oh, it's not working, class is canceled. It's not, but you can always watch this a little bit later. All right. So in thinking about what project I wanted to do next, and I appreciate you guys being understanding. I put that message in Classroom on Monday or Tuesday, sorry, rather, about how this project needed a little bit more time in the oven before it was ready to come out for you guys. And that was a product of just obviously circumstantial. You know, we're clearly in a different construct when it comes to how this class should be run. And your feedback on the last project was really, really helpful. So thank you guys for that. It helped me kind of get an idea of what worked, what didn't. And for the most part, it seemed that the breakdown of our class schedule, as far as having production and pre-production days for immediate help, was really beneficial to those that needed it. And for the folks that felt comfortable doing it without that, they thought it was great that class was a little bit less mandatory and they were able to come and go as they needed to, or not come at all to work on stuff. And so that was really great to hear. The other thing was obviously is that, developing projects that are openly accessible to everyone, given the fact that we're mostly at home, is a little challenging as well, and resources are a little limited. And so I kind of looked back at our year together and thought, well, where were we in September, October? Is there a way to come full circle? And yes, there is, and a really cool and what I hope will be fun and engaging and interesting project for you as a means of expression, and kind of keeping on tone with what we did last time and highlighting a certain skill or something that you were good at. Which the feedback on that alone, I read some really great things. Maddie, I want to thank you. I think it was yours that I was reading that said it was really nice to do a project that focused on something you were good at, regardless of how good it how big that thing is, because, everyone's good at something, but a lot of people think that they're not. And so this kind of becomes maybe a larger way to showcase yourself. And so that took me to the idea of going into a documentary style video, a documentary for our final project, with the focus being on you. And this kind of comes full circle to where we were September, October with our first projects after our editing project, right? We had our About Me, our photo bio that you guys were able to showcase pictures of yourself, friends, families, and interests, set to music and things like that, which was really, really cool. It was a good way to practice using Premiere. And our first shooting project was our interview project, which was a great way to get you guys to have some experience on camera, practice shot composition, framing, preparation, like scripting, and then piecing that together. And so this is going to kind of combine both those elements into something that will come together as hopefully a culmination of those skill sets, but also adding in your expertise and experience over the course of the year. If you look back to some of those early videos, you might say that, wow, they're not as great as the stuff I know I can do now, and that's just having practice and experience under your belt. And so documentary filmmaking are films that depict real life, and I'm putting real life in quotes because there is some gray area there in regards to, well, what constitutes real life? Is real life as we see it, or is it real life as the camera crew and the producers want us to see it? Most reality TV shows are billed as this is really happening, but in the real reality, there's a lot of influence and prodding from producers and showrunners to make certain things happen. Coming from experience in working on some of those shows, and I even had a friend that was on one of those MTV dating shows. And he just said it was unreal the amount of times he was told, "Hey, say this, do this, kick this person off because we want," And I was just like, "Wow, okay, that's kind of eye opening." And then when I had that firsthand experience myself, I was like, "Wow, this is really awful." But the idea here is that filmmakers use the world around them and the people that actually exist in that world as the foundation for their characters and their story. And that's the part that kind of goes overlooked, is most times when students think about documentary films, they think about what they've seen in history classes or science classes. And while those are styles of documentary, there is a whole different bunch of styles of documentary that are more geared towards creating a structural narrative than you may think, right? We think documentaries, we think fact, and sometimes when we want to watch something, we don't usually are inclined to watch something that isn't narratively driven or fictitious, because it's kind of an escape from reality, and there's more of an entertainment factor than an educational factor. But what I was hoping to show with you today through some examples is that documentaries can be done in a number of different ways that are all structured around guiding a narrative. And that's a really cool thing to do. And I think it's going to be a good culmination of our skill set that we've gone over so far this year. So there are some common themes that are persistent throughout almost all documentaries. And the big one is that they are almost always guided through interviews, which in documentaries we refer to as talking heads. And it gets that term because, think about our interview project, right? That was structured as a 3-shot shoot, meaning we had our subject, our interviewer, and then the 2-shot. And the interviewer and the interviewee were both medium close-ups, right? Kind of like how my webcam is now, all right? Chest or pecs on up. And they dominated the screen during that interview. The difference that documentaries is going to make from a visual standpoint is that if you were to do a 10, 15, 20, 90-minute documentary, it needs to be a little bit more visually interesting than just someone talking for that amount of time. Otherwise, why would I watch someone just have one interview for an hour and a half when I could just watch maybe a lecture of that person, or, obviously I want that visual variety. And so documentaries allow that to take place, all right, using, and I know I skipped this one, what is referred to inside the industry as B-roll. And B-roll is essentially anything that your video cuts away to while we're seeing and hearing an interview. And it got its name because typically on film crews, you have, on film sets, you have several different crews that are tiered based on importance, significance. So your A crew, for example, is going to be responsible for getting all your principal and primary shots, right? Like 90% of the film. And you have your B crew that typically will go out and get some of the filler shots, right? So, even if you're making a blockbuster movie and you have big celebrities in there, there's going to be shots that don't involve those celebrities. Or any action for that matter. It might be shots of a car driving by in a street or trees in the woods that don't involve any actors. Well, that's the B unit going out to get that footage, because if you do both things at once, you can save some time and money. And so on that B unit, they have a B camera team. And in that B camera, you have a B roll of film, meaning it's the secondary roll of film. And that name kind of stuck. So when you're seeing an interview and the interview cuts away to an image or video of what that person is talking about, we call that's a B-roll. And so in this project, you're going to have to come across different kinds of B-roll for your documentary. Now, if there's any clarification needed on what B-roll is. Okay. Oh yeah, my broadcaster's up. Up, derp a derp. I found a infomercial that will explain a little bit more about what B-roll is. Enjoy.
Do you need shots of ordinary people doing things for your next commercial? We got that B-roll.
We got that B-roll.
Two men pointing at an office file? We got that B-roll. Bored man flipping through channels? We got that B-roll. Angry man in traffic? Yeah, we got that B-roll. What do you want him to wear? Casual? Upscale casual? Business? We got that B-roll. Why does he look so upset? Maybe he's late for work. Nope, he's at work. He's a B-roll actor. Happy couple walking on the beach? We got that B-roll. Want that happy couple to kiss? No problem. Want him to get a little fresh with the lady? Done. Hey, you two, cut it out and stare at the ocean so I can get B-roll of that. That's better. What a nice view of the ocean. That's B-roll of the ocean. Think that's all the B-roll we got? Not even close. Overwhelmed man trying to pay bills? Yeah, we got it. Frustrated man looking for a job in the paper? You know we got it. And lunch meeting success. Hey, look, that's me. I like my B-roll so much I'm in it. Kirk Gibson hitting a game-winning home run in the '88 World Series. No! That's too specific. That is not B-roll. Doctor talking to smiling patient. We got that B-roll. Man having trouble sleeping. Got it. What's his problem? He doesn't like being in B-roll? I was just in some B-roll and I loved it. The sneezer, backache, headache, and depressed woman touching a wall. Why is she touching the wall? I don't know. That's what depressed people do, right? Don't judge the B-roll. Listen, we got all that B-roll and thousands more. So come on down to our B-roll warehouse. Just kidding. That's B-roll. I fooled you, see? That's how good our B-roll is. We got that B-roll.
We got that B-roll.
You know we do.
To order your B-roll, call 1-800-BBB-ROLL. That's 1-800-BBB-ROLL. Call now.
Okay, so obviously that infomercial was designed as a joke to kind of let you know a little bit more clearly and comically what B-roll really is. And it becomes an important part of kind of being able to manipulate our edit a little bit more with documentary style. If you have an interview, let's say that's 4 minutes long, but there's a lot of pauses, or maybe there's a section of it that you want to cut out, obviously you can trim away that interview and condense it. The issue is that you're going to have jump cuts in your interview. Well, what better way to mask those edits than covering it with some B-roll? And so this could be used in a bunch of different styles of documentary, as there are several different types. And I want to show some examples of them now, as I try and move a little bit quicker for us. So the different types might be fly on the wall, docudrama, self-reflexive, fully narrated, and mixed, which is kind of a combination of all of that. And so I want to show some examples of those, just little snippets as we move through some stuff now. What I'm going to end up doing is pausing at some point to very quickly transition to the project worksheet and the project homework assignment, the pre-production worksheet for this project, to make sure that there's enough time to get through those for you folks. And so there might be some examples that we don't watch as long or we skip. But the first one that I wanted to talk to you about is fly on the wall. And maybe you've heard that expression before, right? Like a conversation between two friends was going to be pretty heated or really dramatic or just, a lot of like gossipy stuff. And you're like, man, I wish I could be a fly on the wall for that conversation. And that's an expression that really just means, I wish I can go unnoticed kind of in the background while I see and hear everything that's going on. And this is what that style kind of emulates, is where the camera crew is working discreetly as possible to make sure that they are always present, but never acknowledged. No one ever looks at the camera. No one ever talks to the camera in this style of film. It's very much a passive, we're going to hang back and get everything. And because of that, it allows for some level of authenticity, right? And the best way to kind of wrap your head around this is, as far as the authenticity goes, imagine if someone said, hey, we're going to follow you around with a camera crew for 30 days. And whatever you do, we're going to capture pretty much 24/7. Think about what they would see, all right? And then think about maybe what you would do to make sure that they don't see certain things that you don't want them to see. So it does skew it a little bit, but the idea here is that with enough time, you tend to forget or ignore the fact that they are around you all the time, and you get those moments of authenticity. So it can be skewed, but it is generally pretty true to life. And so the clip that I wanted to show you now, as I'm going to get it loaded up in my broadcaster, is the opening to a film called Salesman. It's a documentary that came out in the 60s, and I understand that that's a long way ago. But part of my goal in oops, I got to stop. I got to get better at doing that. Part of my goal in showing you some of these examples is that these are kind of like world-renowned and highly regarded documentaries because of what they did as far as their style, and they broke some ground in that regard. And so I figured this would be a good opportunity to show you bits and pieces of these things because of how significant they are, knowing that you're probably not going to go track down Salesman and watch it on your own. But I think this example, more than any of the other ones, if I didn't tell you that this was a documentary, based on the opening alone, you probably wouldn't think was an actual documentary. It looks more like a narrative story, and the way they do their credits over the characters as well kind of gives that indication too. And so it was really smartly done and kind of opened up the doors for more styles like this. So here's a small clip of Salesman.
The best seller in the world is the Bible, for one reason. It's the greatest piece of literature of all times. It's really tremendous, isn't it?
The shepherds and the three kings, flight into Egypt, the childhood of Jesus, Mary turns snare, Mary finds Jesus in the temple. Well, you can see how this would be an inspiration in the home. You like that, honey? What's in there?
Christine.
Well, she's as bright, she's pretty like a mother, huh? Christine, you know what my name is?
Yes.
Paul. Paul, you know?
Paul. You have a cousin named Paul, don't you, Chris?
You can see how complete it is.
The Bible runs as little as $49.95, and we have 3 plans on it. Cash, COD, and also they have a little Catholic honor plan.
Which plan would be the best for you? The A, B, or C?
I'm really not interested unless
Yeah.
I speak it over my husband.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to give him a surprise. Did he have a birthday coming up? Your lovely gift.
That's true.
We place a tremendous... The Bible is still the best seller in the world, so...
I just couldn't afford it now. We've been swamped with medical bills.
Oh, hi, Mrs. Robb. Hey, Mr. McDevitt from the church. How are you today?
Now, what is this?
From the church, Sunday.
No, I guess you've got me mistaken. What name do you want?
Is this 59 West?
No, across the street.
Oh, my gosh.
And this is the ceiling. The crowd, they claim, I don't know exactly, but 30,000 or more attend one mass right in St. Peter's.
St. Peter's.
Right in the Vatican. I didn't know that myself.
I didn't.
All right, so I would keep going a little bit longer, but I'm going to try and make up for some lost time with the technical difficulties that we've been having. So that is fly on the wall style. As you can tell, they never look at the camera. The camera doesn't do anything obtrusive to even bring awareness of itself to the audience. It's just kind of getting everything. And so one of the, I don't want to say drawbacks, but concerns with the style is that as a camera crew, you are constantly capturing footage. And it's not uncommon then for you to have hundreds or thousands of hours of footage to whittle down into, a film or a series. And so in that regard, it becomes a little bit... difficult to put these together. They're very time consuming. I know the Netflix series Making of a Murderer, which was big like a year or two ago, was like 1,000 hours of footage or more. I forget the exact number, but it took them 10 years to make that documentary series. And that's just, think about that. That's a large chunk of your life. The next one I wanted to show is referred to as a docudrama, and this one is fairly common in a lot of historical context stuff. As far as, like, if you turn on the History Channel or something, you might see something like this. It essentially is a documentary that is heavily reliant on reenactments, and so they hire actors to stage certain things to kind of show what really took place. And so the example I wanted to show here, which I think is engaging for a very different reason, is from a documentary called The Thin Blue Line. And it's about a person in Texas who was wrongfully arrested and accused of murder. And it kind of goes through the inner workings of that whole story and the case and the police department and everything like that. And so I wanted to show you the opening scene of that. It does a really good job of drawing you in. So pay extra attention to the music that's going on here, as it does a really great job of kind of setting the tone. And so we'll get that one pulled up for you here. There we go. All right. Enjoy, and then we'll move on to the next one.
In October, my brother and I left Ohio. We were driving to California. We got into Dallas on a Thursday night. Friday morning, while I'm eating eggs and drinking coffee, I get a good job. I mean, it's, you know, all these people are supposedly out of work. I'm not in town a half a day and I've got a job. It just, everything clicked. It's as if I was meant to be here.
And I'd run away from home a couple times, once or twice, I don't know. And this all started, Dave was running away from home. I took a pistol from my dad's and a shotgun. Took a neighbor's car. I think I'd broken in their house or something and got the keys to it. I forget exactly what it was. Ended up coming to Dallas.
I went to work and no one showed up. Being a weekend, sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. On the way home, I ran out of gas. And as I was walking down the street with a gas can, a person at that time pulled over and, you know, I guess since I had the gas can, he figured I was out of gas. I wasn't 100 yards from the car. And being Thanksgiving weekend, there was no gas stations open. So he stopped and asked me if I needed any help.
I'm driving down some street somewhere in Dallas. I just turned 16. And there was a guy over there, I think he run out of gas. I took him to get some gas. This was Randall Adams. Ended up following him to his room where him and his brother were staying. Eventually that afternoon, we went out and got some beer and what have you, and we smoked a little marijuana and what have you. Went to a movie that night.
I get up, I go to work on Saturday, you know. Why did I meet this kid? I don't know. Why did I run out of gas at that time? I don't know. But it happened. It happened.
All right, so I'm going to cut it off there. I wanted to make sure we got to the reenactment scene. So obviously, right, like that whole scene towards the end of the unfortunately, the police officer, being murdered, was a reenactment, right? If you think about that, it's shot very cinematically. The lighting is done very cinematically, and there's no way that we're going to get close-ups of that stuff. There's no way the camera crew would have been there to catch that as it really were, right? So that was obviously a staged thing, and that's perfectly okay when it comes to documentaries as well. Like, we understand that, okay, we're watching something play out as it's happened. this isn't real. And that doesn't necessarily break like the fourth wall, so to speak, in any, shape or form. But it does allow the audience to kind of get a little bit more engrossed, a little bit more invested, especially from the visual component of the documentary. But again, I think the music does a really good job there of kind of pulling us in and setting the tone, right? It's kind of got this mysterious, questionable, like aura to it, which I think does a great job of kind of making us question everything almost immediately. But nice use of B-roll there as well, right? Cut away to shots of the city, cars driving by, and then even during the reenactment, they cut away to, some of the crime scene photos and things, or the I guess the body map of where the entry wounds were for the attack. Now, the next style is referred to as self-reflexive. It gets this name because it's where the camera operator is a surrogate for the audience. This is where you're following a person or a group of people, and you will address the camera directly, in addition to the other people that you're addressing. And so I chose Guy Fieri here, as most people know who he is from his cooking shows, and I'm a big fan of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. But he will constantly, as he's talking to different restaurant owners and even patrons, he'll look at the camera and address the camera directly, and that's a style of documentary that is used to get the audience invested as, being present during this person's, journey. So we're following him through all these restaurants, let's say, and talking about food. But every time he looks at the camera and addresses us, it's as if we were there. And that's why this style is really successful. If you were to go fully narrated, okay, this is where there is a voiceover done that is providing information about what's taking place on screen. It does the storytelling, and it puts in the context what's happening. And so this is the video that's unfortunately flagged. And so I'm going to lower my audio here and try it for wrong audio, just to see if it causes an issue. So I'm going to be talking over this a little bit, but... Boom. Okay. So this is from Planet Earth series on BBC, which is really, really great. And I've muted the narrator just to kind of illustrate a point that without the context of what the narrator is saying, none of this really makes any sense. And so it's difficult to ascertain what's going on because we don't have that narration providing that context. So this just arbitrarily looks like footage kind of pieced together. We don't know what's going on here. We can infer some things, but we don't know for certain, right? Like, are they threatening each other? Are they like trying to mate? We don't really know. And the narrator's there to give that context. So that becomes really important. And some of you guys use voiceover for your how-to videos, and I'm hoping that you found that it added a really nice extra layer of being able to, one, get information across, and two, make some of those shots that you had where you were doing an action a little bit more interesting because we had someone guiding us through them. And honestly, you guys did a fantastic job with that in your projects. So I was stoked to see that. So where does that put us for preparation and planning for this project? How is that even possible? Sorry, I'm looking at my YouTube messages and it's saying that my stream's going to be blocked. All right, I guess I can't do anything there. All right, good to know. So here's where that puts us for our planning and preparation. Documentaries, the misconception with documentaries is that they are always unscripted, right? Because how can you predict, what's going to happen in a real life situation? If you're a camera crew going out there and being told, hey, capture this event as it unfolds, you don't know what to expect with that. But that's not to say that you can't kind of predetermine what it is you want to look for, and that way when you come across it, you know how you want to get it. And it kind of makes the pre-production process a little bit more challenging. But if to simplify it, if your pre-production process of what you want to shoot becomes more of a wish list of what you want to get, then it's a little bit easier to follow. So if you know the locations where you want to shoot, list them out. If you know the people that you want to talk to, you want to line those interviews up as early as possible. If you want to figure out what the message and story is that you want to tell, you can start sculpting that a little bit early. And so for you guys, for our projects, the best way to get started is to sit there and think, okay, if this project is going to be about me and my life, what part of my life do I want to showcase? And if you think chronologically, okay, let's pick a time period. I mean, yes, you can go from birth to now and, you know, kind of hit the highlights in between, and it would be perfectly fine. Or you can say, well, I want to focus on, you know, my high school career, or I want to focus on my athletic career. Maybe you've been playing, you know, rec basketball for a number of years, and you want to talk about your history and experience with that, or you know, any aspect of your life that you want to say, hey, this is a big hobby or interest of mine, I'm going to focus on my involvement with that. That's perfectly fine too. You can narrow it down based on kind of like, hey, pick an age range that you want to highlight, you know, and you can kind of focus on that time frame. All right, and then if you have to, you know, come across any important dates or events, and this one is a little bit less important for us, but more important if you're doing a documentary on a specific subject. You want to know where you can get the best type of footage for that. So if there's like, if you're covering, I don't know, the history of Dungeons and Dragons, and you can find enough information just at home, but you find out that in a month there's going to be a giant, you know, D&D tournament, you might want to put that in your calendar and like go to that event just to get some footage and talk to some people. So while I do have some student examples lined up next, I'm going to save them for next class. Okay. I wanted to touch upon, excuse me, the project guidelines and then the assignment. And I'll start with the assignment. Actually, let me start with the project guidelines. I'm keeping an eye on the clock here for you guys too, even though there's only 2 of us, or none of us. But this video should be available later. So, okay, so the idea here is to go full circle from our About Me project that we did at the beginning of the year, where we introduce ourselves, and now we're going to introduce the concept of About Me, but for a documentary style film project. This could be, like I said, from birth until now, or about a specific incident that was significant in shaping who you were, or a specific time frame of your life. I've had folks do it on their involvement with in joining like drama club and their experience there. I've had someone do it from a accident that they had as a child and you know, like going through the process of rehabilitating from that. I had someone do it from the perspective of someone going through, you know, middle school colorblind and what that was like. Like, you can really kind of focus on what you want with, as long as you're comfortable talking about that in some detail. All right. So here's what you need to have. All right. The musts, the mays, and the may nots. Every single one of you is a unique individual, as evident in your last project in demonstrating a unique skill that you have. So I'm hoping that a title here is going to match that uniqueness. So please have a unique title. Do not call this TV1 documentary project. That is boring, and I know it's that project. You don't need to have that as your official title. Runtime for this project is going to be 3 to 5 minutes. All right. If you're planning on going over, shoot me an email and let me know. All right. Just so maybe I can help you, you know, look at, okay, why are we going over and what can we whittle down? This is a project where if you have good interviews, you're going to be fine with that runtime, but you can run the risk of going longer. All right, you're going to have to use B-roll for this project, of course, which is going to be a combination of photos and video. So anytime that you have an interview of somebody and as they're talking, you cut to another shot of maybe what they're talking about, or a picture of you from, I don't know, T-ball when you were 6 years old because you're talking about your sports career. That is B-roll, and we want to have those things ready to go. All right, the videos themselves are going to be a combination of things that you shot yourself, as well as, and I've just built it as archival footage, meaning that footage already exists. And here's where you can give yourself a really big leg up for this project, is go through your camera roll. Right? If you want to, you know, talk about how you like to spend time hanging out with your friends and doing certain activities, you probably in your phone have video of stuff that you shot when you were doing those things. Use that footage. Like, go back and find some videos of stuff and say, oh, wow, I have this. Great. Let's upload it to Drive and I can use this in my edit. So if that helps reduce the amount of stuff that you need to shoot, go for it. because it's already there. And same with pictures as well. You need to have a minimum of 2 talking heads. So there needs to be at least 2 interviews in your video, all right, that are going to be able to talk a little bit about you. And you can be one of those interviews. All right, music that accents your story. We'll talk about lower thirds next class, and scrolling credits, all right? You may stage B-roll if it helps. If you wanted to do a documentary on your basketball career, all right, and you know that you need to get some footage of that, stage it. Go outside, shoot the basketball around in the driveway, and just get some shots of that. You can do that intentionally, and yes, it's staged, but it's still showing what you're talking about. If you want to use a voiceover or a narration, you can do that as well, as many of you opted to do for your how-to videos. So if that helps you kind of get through chunks of your documentary, go for it. And of course, like I said before, as far as the 2 interviews that you need to do, if you want to be one of those 2, do it. That might make it a little bit easier because you're going to introduce yourself and then kind of talk about things that you like to talk about. And with your face on screen, you've checked off half the requirements of the 2 talking heads, but 2, you've already you can set the structure of what it is you're going to talk about because you're in control of that. If anyone is having issues with getting a second interview, please reach out to me and let me know. I want to work on that with individuals that are struggling case by case. So reach out to me if you're having an issue there. Here's the things that we cannot do, and it's a short list, and this only exists because of people trying to do these in the past. This should not turn into a mockumentary of any sort. Mockumentary is a type of story that borrows the stylistic and visual approach of documentary filmmaking, but is a fully scripted narrative that typically is more comedic. And so we want this to be real and truthful and honest, and it'll be pretty evident if it's not. The second one is, and I did have someone do this years ago, act in the interviews as different people. So, don't tape up a fake mustache and sit down on camera and say you are your dad. That's not going to fly. Yeah, don't dress up like that. I'll move through some of the tips. They're there. This document's going to be up on Google Classroom for you. It should be there now. The project is going to be due on Friday, June 12th. Now, I set the date based on where our school year is going to end. I don't actually recall, to be honest with you, if that's an A day or a B day. It might be a B day. And if that's the case, the project is still going to be due then. Because if it's not, then it would be the day before, but I figured I would give you that extra time. The other reason is because it's going to take some time to grade these, all right? And I want to make sure that I have them graded and posted before our school year ends. The week after this is due is our last week of classes, so we're going to watch some of these, talk about them, critique them, and at least be able to have kind of a formal goodbye as our time comes to an end. All right, this section right here, this is the worksheet that was posted on Google Classroom. All right, this is your pre-production planning worksheet. Now, it's a little bit different because it's 2 pages. The top part is a breakdown of what each section is, all right? And then down below is the section that you're actually going to fill out. So you don't need to erase any of this and then write stuff in. You can just go to the bottom. And that way, if you're sitting here going like, well, wait a minute, what do I need to put for B-roll? Boom, it's up at the top here, okay? So just to explain this a little bit, all right, your treatment, as it's been all year, is going to be a summary of what it is that you want to talk about. All right, this should be written almost narratively. So if you're going to say, my documentary is going to be about my life, not helpful. All right, because I know that already. I want to know specifically what aspects of your life. What are you going to show? What are you going to talk about? Okay, put that information there. You should be hitting a paragraph or 2 for that treatment. All right, I even have it there as a half-page summary. Your life is very detailed, and we want to get those details out. All right, this should essentially let me know in 3 to 5 minutes what I'm going to learn about you. Okay, so I should know everything you're going to say in your documentary before I even watch your video based on this treatment. All right, your interview shortlist is a list of names of potential interview candidates, okay, and the questions you're going to ask them. So much like our interview project in the beginning of the year, All right. You want to have people lined up, put their names here, and then you're going to put the questions that you're going to ask them down below. They should be open-ended questions. All right. We don't want one-word answers from these people. We want them to elaborate. That's going to give you a lot of content to edit from and pick the best of the best for your final project. All right. Locations is just where you're going to shoot. I understand that this might be a little bit different now because you're shooting a lot in your house, but like, I don't know, be specific with which room. If you're going out back and going to shoot in the patio, cool, put that there. If you're around the corner from a park and you know you're going to go like take the basketball out and shoot some hoops and get some stuff there, cool, put that there as well. Just be as detailed here as possible. The B-roll list is probably going to be the longest section here because this kind of falls down into 3 categories. You're going to have footage that you want to shoot, all right, and that's going to include the B-roll that you're going to stage. All right, it's going to include video that you've already shot, that already exists, that archival footage, right? So if you've got stuff on your camera roll and you want to put that video in your project, list it here. All right. If again, I don't want to keep harping back on the whole sports career thing, but maybe if your parents have footage of you playing a game because you're playing and you can't record yourself playing, but they can because they're in the stands and you want to use some of that stuff, get it from them, but put it in this list. All right, it becomes like a nice little checklist for you. So when you look at this later and you go, oh yeah, I have to ask mom or dad to send me that video clip so I can put it in my edit. And then finally, there's going to be a list of stuff that you need to obtain that you didn't create. And this could be, pictures online, heck, even videos online if you want to pull some stuff from the internet. So again, basketball career, great. But maybe you want to show some influential basketball players that got you into the sport. And so if you want a clip of, Michael Jordan, go online and find it, but put that here so that you know to go online and find it. And then music doesn't need to be super specific if you don't know like the song or the artist that you want to use, but like give me a mood, give me a tone. Is this going to be upbeat and happy? Is it going to be low key and chill? Like this will kind of set the mood for your piece. And you should start to think about that early, okay? So this is what's posted now. This is going to be what is due at the end of next class. When we meet next class, I'm going to show you those student examples. I'm hoping that'll put into some context what it is that that's been done in the past to kind of give you an idea of what this can look like, and we'll kind of go from there. So keeping an eye on the clock, as I know I have to kind of stop, reset everything, and then do this again for my next class. I am going to wrap up this stream. I will put a post in Classroom for you folks to kind of check this video out. I apologize for the technical issues in the beginning. And so that'll do it for today. We'll reconvene on Monday of next week to kind of touch upon some things. So please try and find some time to watch this between now and then so you have an idea of what to expect. And we'll kind of continue this conversation then. So I will see you folks on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Adios.